speaking with the therapist, and then she asked me, she was like, okay, so why are you afraid to like talk to them? And I then said, well, I don't know. And then she was like, so like, what do you think the most horrific part is going to be? And I said, that they're going to think that I'm a failure. And then she said, do you think you're a failure? And I said, no. And then she said, well, so if you don't think you're a failure, you're not a failure. And I said, oh, wow. Yeah, I'm not a failure. Give me a countdown.
3, 2, 1.
So welcome to episode 2 of my journey. And episode 2 is really my second year full-time entrepreneur. As I stated in the first episode, I want to give a huge shout out to my wife who was holding me down, making me not feel inadequate, just like really, just being that rock. And then also shout out to all of the folks who, let me $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, etc. Really, helping me along the journey. But in this episode here, I want to go deeper, right? So I felt as though the first episode I was, I was transparent, but I don't think I was transparent enough. And then also too, I want to get deeper into like the mental, what was going on in my mental. And then also like where my big break went, right? So, so with this episode, I want to focus on 2 points, right? So point number 3 is get yourself a therapist. You need a professional to help you navigate the thoughts and challenges and warfare in your head. So now I'm in second year full-time entrepreneurship. And, like the first year was a challenge. Again, not much money. I still didn't have a groove, and what I was doing to survive financially and also, things that I was really also passionate about was I turned Groomed Success into a mentorship company where we contract with schools, doing different workshops, professional development activities. And as you know, like New York City government, a lot of people, particularly Black people, may not be aware or not getting the opportunities to, contract with the city, right? New York City has an annual operating budget of about $100 billion a year, right? And I say billion with a B. So with that, we contract things, right? And with my public policy background, I was able to understand how that world worked, right? So, I was doing contracts with the city of New York where, I would charge about $500 an hour to, go into schools. $500 a session, for which it sounds great, and then there is money in that. And then I definitely, encourage, particularly Black people, to get into the schools and really do some workshops and some programming on the workforce development side, etc. So with that, money was coming in, but the challenge though was the fact that when you're doing business with a municipality, they pay you whenever they want, right? So, there were numerous times where I was literally waiting for a $15,000 check. I didn't know if it was going to come tomorrow or in 4 months, right? So cash flow. And that's why, going back to the previous episode of just having friends who you can call on when you need a cash infusion, because they're there to support you, right? And then they're help to push you forward. But can you imagine the mental challenges that I had during that time? It was the most hardest thing ever, because oftentimes Black men deal with their trauma by seeking wealth. Because oftentimes Black men deal with their trauma by seeking wealth. So it's like, I trying to get money. So that's my validation. And, I didn't realize that that's actually not the case. And I want to give a huge shout out to a great friend of mine, Dr. Florence St. Jean, because she is she's a clinical psychologist. And then she said to me one day, she said, Jeff, man, you know what? Like, you need to go to therapy. I said, therapy? For what? Nah, son, yo, like, I'm not, letting anyone into my mental. And, then, like, she's someone who I trust and love so dearly. So then, I went. And with that, for the first 6 months, it took me about 6 months for me to open up. And, shout out to the Black woman who, was my therapist at the time. I'd say that she probably saved my life, right? And then she said to me, she was like, listen, Jeff, man, like, why every time you come here, you're trying to pitch something or you're trying to just show that you're like powerful? She was like, yo, bro, relax, man. Damn. Yo, honestly, excuse the vulgarity. She was like, yo, sit your down. Yo, man, relax, man. I was like, oh, she's right. She was like, yo, sit your ass down. And that's actually what made me feel even more comfortable. And then here's what she said to me that changed the whole trajectory of my being. She said, Jeff, like, in this room right here, your life is on display. And your life is on display in this room. And I'm going to look at all of the, so she said, all of the dark corners of your mind that you do not want to get in. I'm going to help you slowly go into every single corner and turn off the lights, turn on the lights. You turn on the lights and we'll start addressing every corner. And then she said, listen, I'll be there with you. And I said, oh, wow, that's deep. So for the last 5 years, we've been going into every single room. And therapy was what really helped me get through this journey and also get through life. And then also something that what I saw that helped me along the way too was when I no longer identified Gentleman's Factory as my identity. Because prior to therapy, I was like, this has to succeed. This is my legacy. And this is for me. Mind you, like, I'm a very humble guy. People tell me. No, seriously. I don't know. Like, you be the judge, right? But in that, though, I was also someone who was very keen on, like, just, like, ensuring that I succeed and I'm successful and I want to make it. And, I got to prove people. Once I stopped identifying my being, my essence with a thing, quite frankly, I think that's where was the tipping point for me and where my success came from. And until now, I love Gentleman's Factory and I, this is like something that I love and cherish, but this is not my identity. It's not. And I was able to release that pressure. So because I did, that's what I'd say helped me to succeed. Hence why now, like I got my hat on backwards sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm, just vibing and like chilling, right? I feel very comfortable in my skin because before I thought that I had to be perfect. But therapy made me realize that I ain't perfect. And I mean, Deborah, my wife, makes me realize that every single day as well. But, so I definitely encourage everyone to go to therapy and to talk about what's going on in your head. And that's definitely something that really helped me along the way is the safetyness of thought, right? And again, Please, brothers, go to therapy. You need it. You need to talk to someone. You need to navigate your mind and your thoughts and all of the things all of the insecurities, all of those things. And it helps you out in business. It helps you out in business because your level of security that you have when you know what your triggers are, you're able to now, move strongly in understanding your full being. So I'm very comfortable in my skin because I learned myself, right? And I also needed a professional to help me figure it out because I learn more about myself every single day. And that's how I make business decisions now. And also, I'm very emotionally aware and I have the emotional intelligence. So as I'm walking through this entrepreneurial journey, especially year 2, year 3, I'm now getting a better sense of who I am and also, how I deal with stress. So then, going back to the pressures of entrepreneurship, I remember there were times where I still couldn't make the rent or, I'm still waiting for a check from the city so that I can pay this, that. I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul. And now, some of the folks who I borrowed money from initially, they're like, hey, Jeff, so 2 years is up, so. And I remember a really close friend of mine, like one of my childhood friends who I love so dearly. And I love him so much, man. And I'm not going to name his name because I don't want to put him on the spot. But he said something to me because he originally, I think invested like $10,000 when I just first resigned from my job. And then I was like, yeah, man, like in 2 years, this is going to pop, you know what I'm saying? And da. So now, he would always call me, not even asking me about the money. He's my friend. But every time he called me, I would always feel like nervous because I'm like, yo, man, I think I'm failing. And I just avoided him at one point, right? And then he called me and he was like, yo, bro, Jeff, I don't care about the money, bro. I was like, what? He was like, yo, man, pay me back. He was like, but I don't come on, man. Just talk to me, bro. And he and I grew up together, he lived on the ninth floor and I lived on the third floor in 2750 West 33rd Street. Shout out to Coney Island, And then he would just literally just say, yo, Jeff, bro, man, I'm just checking up on you, the human, the person. And I remember when he told me that one time, I started crying, man, because I was like, wow, man, these people really believe in me, man. But again, it was the warfare that was going on in my head because of the fact that, listen, I never asked folks for money before. You know what I'm saying? And then the pride that I have of having vulnerability, it's like, wait, so wait, so I have to give the money back to you. Mind you, we didn't even sign paperwork at the time, right? You see what I'm saying? It was the honor system, right? But it's like, nah, yo, you know what? I got to make sure that I give you the money back in interest and et cetera, et cetera. So with that, he was just saying, yo, bro, just talk to me. So I'm like, it's cool. Yo, bro, I just want to see you win. And I thank God for those folks there. But therapy definitely helped me to navigate through the thoughts. And I remember, I was speaking with a therapist and then she asked me, she was like, okay, so why are you afraid to talk to them? And I then said, well, I don't know. And then she was like, so what do you think the most horrific part is going to be? And I said that they're going to think that I'm a failure. And then she said, do you think you're a failure? And I said, no. And then she said, well, so if you don't think you're a failure, you're not a failure. And I said, oh, wow. Yeah, I'm not a failure. And it's just those simple things where you're having someone to process things with you. And, then that's what it gave me the confidence to, speak to them and ask for more money, right? Now, 5 years later, I'm asking folks for 5 million, 10 million, 50 million. Shit, I'm about to ask someone for $1 billion just for the hell of it, right? No, I'm playing. But what I'm saying, though, is that a lot of these things are in your head. And it's important that you are able to navigate those spaces so that you can win, right? Because entrepreneurship, again, it is a journey and no one really has the right answers. Everyone is just figuring out best practices every single day. So tip number four is what I would say is to dream big, but have one eye on the future and your other eye on the next step. So when I started, gentlemen, so now, I'm in a groove, and I'm like, money is coming in, and then we have a membership model now. And with that, we have about 30 members. And I wanted to cap the membership at about 30 members. And this is maybe like 2017. Because now I'm like, okay, how can I get 30 strangers to come together to, build with each other, share ideas, etc. Because I didn't know much about the Black experience. And I say that candidly and authentically because Black people, we're not a monolith. People say that all the time. We're not a monolith. Listen, I'm Haitian. I was born in Haiti, married 2 kids, married at 25. And I have an 11-year-old and I'm 36 right now. And, I'm a doorman, right? I'm not wealthy or anything, but it's like, I'm okay, right? So I needed to understand the various perspectives of the Black experience. And that's why I really took my time. Going back to thought number one is you need time. And I really needed to understand the Black community in its fullness, in its full depth, in its beauty, I love the Black community, right? And I'm constantly studying it as a Black person, right? So if I'm a Black person and I'm studying the Black community, then that means that, let me leave this here because I don't want to get canceled, right? But essentially what I'm saying is that, I really wanted to take my time with it. So, we did 30 members, because I wanted to see how 30 strangers connected with each other. And then with that 30, it was kind of like a great sample size to see what is a model, like what do Black men need. And then somebody they started businesses together, we really created this bond. And then that's when I said, I want to scale. I want to have Gentleman's Factory locations everywhere. And then that's when there's this company called The Wing just popped up. And, there was other things that I was hearing about because I was in a bubble. And there's this dope spot in Atlanta called The Gathering Spot. And, they're doing amazing things. And, so now I'm like, oh, snap. Okay. So there's other folks out there. Let me get out of my bubble and let me see what's going out there in the world. And so many others too. Right. So with that, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not in here by myself, but particularly The Wing, they were raising I think $120 million. And here I am now finally able to pay my rent for the year, right? Well, not for the year, but month to month. So then I'm like, all right, you know what? I want to scale. And as an entrepreneur, you have to balance it, right? You have to be able to think big, have one eye on the future, but have another eye on the next step. Oftentimes, people are so big on their vision and they're like, oh my God, I want to scale, I want to do this, I want to do that. But then it's how are you going to get there? And you're like, no. Or there are individuals who are so detailed about every single step where they don't really have a granular vision, and they're so stuck on making sure that they have their LLC in perfect language, right? So it is having this balanced approach. And again, in one eye, you got to think about the future, and in the other eye, you got to think of the next step, right? So with me, I was like, yo, you know what? I want to scale Gentleman's Factory, right? We have a membership model, and our premise is like we don't grow in isolation. And then we pivoted from, like the ties and the bow ties and the accessories and all of that. And then, like I started dressing differently now, right? Like I stopped wearing like the ties and the shoes and all of that. And I'm like, yo, man, like I got a hoodie on, right? Even right now, right? Like I got a dope Brooklyn Circus hoodie on. Shout out to Ouija from Brooklyn Circus, black owned, my Haitian brother, killing the game, right? And I really wanted to get comfortable, right? So therapy helped me getting comfortable with my own skin and learning, understanding myself, etc. And then also similarly with, understanding the Black experience and perspective, right? So with that, here's what I would say, right? Like if you're building something, dream big, dream big. Never whisper your dream. Shout it out loud and let the universe adjust, right? Dream big. But as you're dreaming big, you got to understand how to get there too. So if you have a big dream, then tell us how you going to get there. Because now, we have over 300 plus members at Gentleman's Factory. We're growing, etc. We opened up a space in downtown Brooklyn, and we're buying a space in somewhere in New York City, and then we're going to you may catch us with Bezos on space, right? You know what I'm saying? All of that. But I know the numbers on how to get there. You know what I'm saying? Right? I know how to get there. Right? Yeah, I mean, it's probably gonna cost me, maybe $5 billion. But I know if someone wrote me a check for $5 billion, I know how to spend it, right? And it won't be on Yeezys and 18 Teslas and all different colors of blue. But listen, all in all, recapping on episode 2, one, it's, my third point in my 10-point plan is get yourself a therapist. You need a professional to help you navigate the thoughts and challenges and warfare in your head. And then number 4 is dream big, but have one eye on the future and the other eye on the next step. So I'm looking forward to episode 3. We have a lot more to discuss, where now I'm in the New York Times. We got a New York Times article on the front page, and how am I navigating that? And now, people are throwing money at me, and, it's members is growing, etc. Oh my God. And that's when everything is so easy. Yeah. Right. Entrepreneurship is a journey. And I look forward to just talking about my story and helping you all understand and to learn from me, right? I think Jay-Z said Hove did that, so hopefully you don't gotta go through that, right? I'm nowhere near Hove or Jay-Z, but if you can learn from my story, then I did my job, right? So signing off again. Shout out to Brooklyn Circus for this amazing sweater. Ouija, you're amazing. God bless you all. It's a wrap. Let's build.